Oh, for Christ's sake, he's still going on about those bloody SSD cards. Right, I'm going to talk about my recent failure of my SSD card, SSD drive. Okay. Now, I should first say that I think it was probably an older drive when I had it, anyway, and I was quite taken aback that it just failed, dead. Okay. But here's the thing: stop fannying and farting about bloody running out of SSD bloody storage. All right. I'll give you an example. You don't need to. All right. They're dirt cheap anyway. That's number one. All right. Number two, I only use mine for my operating system and my programs. All right, and games. So when it failed, it took me aback. There's no doubt about it. But once I got my ass in gear, reinstalled things, it didn't take very long at all, and it was so much quicker after I did it. Now I don't know why that drive failed, but I'm inclined to think it was more of an aberration than a practical thing. And I'd had that in there for 3 years then. And I don't know how old the drive was when I first had it, because this was a refurb. I picked it up. So stop fucking fannying about write cycles and whether it's going to run out, it's not going to run out. The technology would have moved on before it's even a fucking issue. So shut the fuck up going on about it, really. Jesus Christ. You know, you're not going to overuse it. If you do overuse it, go and buy another one. They're 25 quid or they're 30 quid. All right? But you're not going to overuse it. And I'll give you an example as well. I remember, let's say 22 years ago, fart-arsing about because I had a load of films on CDs back in the days when they were in 2 parts. Fucking hell. And I remember fart-arsing about thinking, oh, you know, these aren't going to work in 20 years' time. Oh, what am I going to do? The die's going to go. You know, not even fucking taking into account that 20 years later, I'm not even using fucking CDs anymore. The file format that I was using for those films was fucking DivX or XFID, but the quality was shite. And what are we using now? We're using flash drives, SSD drives. I don't even need those discs anymore. But I remember I was, oh Christ, what am I going to do? Nothing. You're not going to do anything, you arsehole, because in 20 years' time, you're not even going to use fucking CDs. So don't worry about the SSD. It's unlikely that it will fail. You know, as a matter of technicality, it's a hell of a lot better than hard drive. It'll probably stand you in much better stead. Don't worry about it. Get yourself an SSD. The speed is great. The price is right. Go for it. All right? And don't worry about it, honestly. What happened with me, it was an aberration. It failed. It happens. Okay? But in terms of everyday use, don't worry about it. Keep everything backed up as per. You know, I would just use it as like a main drive for your operating system and like your programs. But otherwise, don't worry about it. It's all good. I'd just like to offer my condolences and thoughts about Pell, the actor from Escape to Victory, who, funnily enough, never did another film after that. Strange acting career. Yeah, anyway, all the best, Pell. I assume you had a surname. Maybe it was Smith, I don't know. Pell Smith? I don't know. Pell Mal. And respect for the dead. Anyway, all the best, Pell. Pal. Escape to Victory was a shit film.
Futu-ți Dumnezeu, mă, m-a încăcat pe mine. M-a încăcat pe mine.
It's a real thing in the back of your mind. What you're hoping to find is a real thing.
Right, I thought I'd do a quick video. Well, I don't know how long it's going to be. since it's 4 o'clock from a 2:45 in the bloody morning. And I can't really sleep, which is unusual for me. Unlike some pricks who seem to have to be up with the fucking sun. I don't know what the fuck that's all about. Some form of mental retardation. I don't know. So I've started watching Elementary again, which was a Sherlock Holmes show that they did over a decade ago now, about Sherlock Holmes in America with a female partner. And the reason I'm kind of doing this is because it kind of got me thinking about how I remember when Sherlock first came out on the BBC, and how it was touted as this incredibly, sharp and intellectual, TV series. And I thought, even if you haven't seen the bloody thing, I thought that I would do one of my scathing videos about it, because I can make it entertaining, and I don't think it'll be that long, because I'm not particularly invested in it, and quite frankly, I'd rather spend more energy passing a turd, well, in physical form as opposed to televisual, which is what actually Sherlock ended up being. And the reason I'm talking about this is because the ironic thing is that Elementary not only went on for a lot longer, even though I scoffed at I thought, oh, well, here we go again, Sherlock Holmes in America, tut, but that not only was it far superior, but it went on for longer as well. So let me give you my, kind of précis of what I thought of Sherlock when it first came out. That was 2010. Can't remember all the years, so I'm not going to bother. So the first series is 3 episodes. So you get the first episode. The first episode was about a taxi driver who was a killer, and it introduced the cast, and it was quite good, quite watchable. But I've got to be honest with you, on rewatching it, one of the things that struck me was it was in no way as sharp or as intelligent as it wanted you to think it was. It was pretty crap. And it starred that Phil Cornish. Now, I don't know what it is with that guy, but every time I see him, he just looks like a walking, talking bogey. He's just such a troll of a man. Ugh, physically repellent. I suppose you'd share that with most retro gamers, I suppose. Certainly Discord users. But he's just such a physically unattractive person. But it was quite watchable. And these are my thoughts that I remember at the time, and embellishing them now. Then there was the second episode, which was pretty much nonsense, Chinese nonsense. I can't remember. It was about banking, I think. But it was. I've watched it again and over the years, and it's pretty meh. And then you came to the third one, where you got introduced to the most fucking physically annoying little pissant cunt. And I don't know if it was around the same time, but or if it was later, I don't know. But he shared a lot of truth. There's two objections I've got to homosexuality, all right? And they're not really objections to the thing itself. I got no beef whatsoever with two guys being together, two girls been together. I don't care. I have no religious or moral problems with it. And if I did, it would be my problem because it's their lives. However, there are two caveats to that with me, and they are difficult to dispute, really. Number one, I don't think it's hygienic sticking anything up your backside. I don't think it is. Now, that goes for a lot of straight acts as well, let's be honest. That could be just as dirty, yeah. But I'm not into that. No, that's number one. And number two is a particular form of behaviour which I find intensely annoying, which is what I classify as, hiya, I can't fucking stand it. I think it's fake. I think it's bollocks. And there was an annoying cunt I used to know. And if I found out he was dead, I would be quite fucking happy. I'm a bit like that. I'm not necessarily. I don't necessarily wish harm on people, but I'm the kind of person who, if someone kind of crosses me, and then something bad happens to them, good. So, going back to Sherlock, yeah, this annoying little twat playing Moriarty, who has some association with that ugly, obnoxious feminist bitch who's going to be in this new Indiana Jones film, which I won't be watching. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I mean, what kind of a fucking man would want to be with that? Jesus Christ, there's not enough fucking tea in Siam for me to go anywhere. I wouldn't touch that with a stolen dick. Anyway, so the third episode was fucking bollocks. So, cut to series 2. The cliffhanger, and then this was one of the first signs that we were kind of dealing with bollocks, because it's kind of like, if you're going to set up a cliffhanger, don't let it be a squib in the first 5. Resolve it. That's poor writing. I don't like that. If you're going to set a cliffhanger, resolve it properly. With the same dramatic intensity. I imagine like cliffhangers, they should be like a musical movement. They should have a start, a middle, and an end. And they should all be of equal quality. So if you're going to start, you're going to start a cliffhanger. You want to hang. You want to end it on the same drama, but you want to end it. Most don't. Most, so many shows, and it's really interesting, especially when you watch a show when you don't have to wait for the next series because you've got them all, how so often, you watch a cliffhanger that's supposed to be such a big thing and it's resolved so easily. It annoys me. So it was. And we got a rather irritating episode about this dominatrix. It wasn't particularly attractive. I wouldn't be dominated by her. If anybody took a fucking rubber whip to me, they'd down their fucking throat, I can tell you that. Yeah, arseholes. But again, I started to notice this pattern of, maybe to the, and I think this was probably the case, maybe to the majority of the televisual watching audience, this was the height of writing, but as someone of, who has got a triple-digit IQ, and not at the low end, I started to think, this is trying too hard, and what was passing as intelligent was somewhat a bit silly. So the first episode, the series 2 was crap. Second episode, they did The Hound of the Baskervilles. That was quite good. That was quite a good little adventure. Quite liked that. And also, as well, to be honest with you, that wasn't really that complicated. Maybe that's one of the reasons it was more enjoyable, because it wasn't trying to be anything. It gets to the end of series, so again, there's only 3 episodes per series. Gets to the end of series 2, and again that annoying cunt turns up, Moriarty turns up. Only this time, they decide to do a modern telling of the final problem, in which Sherlock Holmes dies. Now that's fine, that's no problem at all. But this is where the show really started to go downhill for me, because they set it up so that, you know, it looks as though Sherlock Holmes is dead. Okay. And then he turns up at the end. He's not, but everybody thinks he's dead. Okay, fine. Now that's fine. But there were always all these theories on how they did it. The writers did it and what they were going to do, etc., etc. And when the series came around, when it came back in series 3, there were 2 things immediately which got right up my nose. The main one was they introduced that midget who played Dr. Watson's wife as a character, who had the most annoying voice. But not only that, she had the physicality of a northern housewife, and yet they tried to pass her off as later on we find out, great reveal, that she's an ex-SAS operative. Yeah, okay. Now, I digest. In the world of television, perhaps this is a case where the idea of what someone in the SAS looks like could be different to the actual reality. So maybe they do recruit bored housewives from the north. Maybe they do. However, I'm inclined to think not. And also, I think that if that's the look they're going for, you know, I think it would have been more convincing if they'd had Benny from Crossroads in the role. And I never liked her. Didn't like her at all. The Hobbit, which is ironic because he later went on to play a Hobbit. The Hobbit has now moved on because Sherlock is quote unquote dead. For reasons banal, he comes back. You know, I'm alive. No, okay, that's fine. But at the time, and it was a fair amount of time, I think it was nearly 2 years, I'm not sure. But at the time, there were, you know, people wanted to know how he survived what he survived. This was the first time I really knew that Mark Gatiss was, apart from being physically repellent, the walking, talking version of bug spray. Oof. Was the fact that he's actually a really piss poor writer. You know, I liked his stuff up to then. I kind of thought, you know, he was the kind of guy I thought, well, you know, if I was in a position to kind of write things, the stuff that he writes is the stuff that would interest me. You know, so he had an interest in Hammer horror and things like this, and Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that. But they did this episode, and they thought it was ever so clever that they didn't actually explain how he survived. Well, I thought we'd leave it up to the fans to decide. No, you didn't fucking know. If you don't know how he's going to fucking survive, you've got no fucking business killing him off and pretending you're oh so fucking clever. That pissed me off. So that's episode 1, series 3. Okay. Episode 2, I can't even fucking remember. What was it about? Was it the one where he was in the hospital? I think it was the one where he was in... No, it wasn't. The episode 2 was the one where the 2 hobbits, Watson and the SAS woman, yeah, right, get married. And that was quite watchable. But again, it was pretty middling, you know. And then episode 3, I can't really remember the details, but I know, again, it was bollocks. And I think they brought back that. And again, they threatened to bring back that. Because I remember they did a TV, there were adverts on the TV, and the little twat popped up, Moriarty popped up on the TV saying, "Oh, have you missed me?" "No, I haven't, mate." You know, I haven't missed the fact as well that when I, sometimes when I toss off, nothing comes out. That's how much I fucking missed you cunt. So, yeah, so at the end of series 3, I was kind of like, well, we've had like one pretty solid episode per series. Very watchable anyway, at least. But it's quite obvious that these actors are moving into other things, so they're not as available. The series, duration and gaps in between the series was getting longer and more sporadic. So I was, by that point, the novelty had well and truly worn off, and I at this point I could take it or leave it. Emphasis on leave it. So, because by then we were probably about 3 or 4 series into Elementary, like I said, the American equivalent, and it was far superior, and it was weekly, and they dealt with some very interesting technology and some very interesting stories, which for an American police procedural was, stands out. And it must have been good because it lasted for 7 years. So the next thing they did a won't this be fun? A Christmas special where they all pretended that they were back in the original era of Sherlock Holmes, back in the late 1890s. They all got dressed up. But the story was some bollocks about the Patriot. This was when the BBC was starting to circle the drain. It's bollocks about the patriarchy and, the oppression of women, yawn. Oh, don't you think it's wrong that women are oppressed? Yes, of course I do. But these BBC writers, are so heavy-handed in their storytelling, I just lose interest. I don't need to be spoon-fed or told what to think. And I don't appreciate it either. So that episode was utterly forgettable. So when they finally got round to doing series 4, a lot of time had passed, a lot of interest had waned, and it was kind of like, well, if this is the last one, I might as well just watch it. Can't remember the first 2 episodes. I think one was in the hospital, and there was a serial killer in a hospital, but it was ridiculous. And it all led to a crescendo of a turd of a last episode, which was utterly ridiculous, where the whole show just descended into not even quality 1950s science fiction, where it turned out that Sherlock had blocked the memory of a sister who was superior to him. Well, of course, it's a woman. It's got to be, innit? That's what I think to that. Thank you, Bowles. Cool. Smells like fucking cabbages. I mean, fucking eating fucking cabbages. That's worrying. Yeah. So Sherlock Holmes has got a sister who's even smart, even better than he is. Oh, get this. She can control people with her mind. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. See, I've got special powers. I can tell what you're thinking. I'm getting the word. Bollocks. Yeah, that's the one. So, to be honest with you, by the end of the fucking thing, I was glad to have been put out of my misery. The other thing which I did was got a good laugh for me was when Watson's wife died. I was waiting for that to fucking happen. since the beginning of series 3 because she was so fucking annoying. It was just like, oh please, when's she gonna fucking die? And I don't think it was. I think it was the last episode of series 4. By which point the bitch had been in 6 or 7 episodes anyway. So it was of no interest whatsoever. And that's where the show ended, you know. So it's almost like the television equivalent of Superman and Superman 4. So you start on a fucking high, and 10 years later you end up with a fucking film that looks worse than one that's 10 years fucking old. You know, and that's Sherlock for you. Bollocks. I mean, I'd never rewatch it. What would be the fucking point? You know, waste of fucking time. And if I did watch it, it would be like, okay, series 1, what am I going to do? Okay, I'll watch episode 1. I'll watch episode 2 of series 2. I'm not going to watch episode 2 of series 3 because she's fucking annoying. I suppose I could rewatch the episode where she dies, but I don't have to watch the whole episode for that. So that's it. That was Sherlock. It was bollocks. And by the time it was over, the novelty had well and truly worn off, and I'm not entirely sure when it ended, but considering they only made 4 series and a fucking special, I think that spanned about 8 or 9. No, was it 8 or 9? 8 years, something like that. 7, 8 years, you know. So by that reckoning, and you know, I mean, it was like nearly a new series every 2 years. I mean, no wonder people lost fucking interest in it. No, it was bollocks. I wouldn't recommend. I mean, I don't think I'd recommend it to people. And you know, Benedict Slobberdown McCock, you bitch. I mean, I suppose he wasn't a bad Sherlock, I suppose, but he wasn't exactly great. I can't stand Martin Freeman, primarily because he's fucking short. I can't stand his ex-wife who's in it. So, to be honest with you, it's the whole thing is utterly forgettable. I wouldn't recommend it. If I had to give it a score out of 10, I'd probably give it 2 hot lip kisses. And that's under fucking sufferance. You know, I would recommend, if you want to watch a decent version of Sherlock Holmes, I recommend you watch the definitive Jeremy Brett. Because although you can argue that he does ham it up, he's brilliant. Or you watch Elementary. Elementary is a very good version. Or if you like the film iterations, I can recommend the 7% Solution with Nicole Williamson. That's a great film, brilliant film that is, by the same guy, I might add, who directed Star Trek 2. Nicholas Meyer. He wrote the book, The 7% Solution. So that's it. Actually, this has gone on for longer than I thought. Anyway, I hope it is somewhat entertained you, and I'll see you again soon. All the best. Bye bye.